I know. Yes, I did it. I joined the Leica cult. I got me a Leica M2. I wanted the Leica M6. I couldn't afford the Leica M6, so I was looking at all the other Leica cameras to see which ones I could get my hands on. First one I really wanted to grab was Leica M5, because if you're looking at prices on eBay or any other websites, the M5 is the cheapest camera you can get into the Leica ecosystem. And then from there you can get the M3, the M2, the M1, the MD, the MDA, the M4. They all come in a variety of different prices and packages, and depending on the scratches and depending on the parts, depending on a lot of things, the prices vary a lot. So on Facebook Marketplace, I saw this one. The person selling it described it to be in pristine condition. It looked in pristine condition. Met up with the person, got it with the lens, got it with the 35, got this Leica in pristine condition, and here I am, a Leica M2 owner. And I must say, this camera is in pretty good, very good condition for a camera that's almost 50 years old. It makes me even question whether this is a refurbished model, but either way, I don't care. I love the camera, I love the way it looks, and it's brought me joy. And while this isn't a full review of the camera, this is basically a first impressions review. Haven't put 6 rolls through this camera. I just want to talk to you about my first impressions with it and just see and show you some images. Show you some images I've been able to take on this camera. But yeah, let's jump right into the images. I'll show you some of the favorite images I've taken in 3 weeks of owning this camera, and we'll talk about a couple of my first impressions with using the Leica M2. The first thing I want to talk about, the first impression I had when I first got this camera was the film advance. When you're taking a shot, first of all, the shutter is really quiet. But when you advance in the film, it's one of the smoothest advances I've ever used on a 35mm camera. It's right up there with the Nikon F3 and the F2 and the smoothness and the feeling you get when you take a picture and you advance. If you're a film shooter, you understand what I'm talking about, but when you advance the film, you feel nice, you feel good, it makes you want to go on and take the next picture. This camera has a huge rangefinder patch. This is the largest or the biggest rangefinder patch I've ever seen on a 35mm camera. I shoot a lot of medium format rangefinders. I've used the Fuji GSW 692. I used that for a very long time, and the rangefinder patch on that camera is almost comparable to this one. This one's just a little bit smaller, but a 34 or 35mm camera, this one is really big. The rangefinder patch is really easy to focus and easy to use. Allows for taking pictures really quick, really fast, and you hit focus most of the time if you know what you're doing. When I first got this camera was much heavier than I thought it would be. Usually 35mm cameras aren't that heavy, especially ones that are this size, but this one is pretty heavy. And speaking of size and weight, this camera is kind of weird to hold in your hand, right? I have big hands, so I find myself holding it with like 2 fingers in the front and one at the bottom. This model that I have does not have the self timer, so it's actually easier for me to hold. I don't know what it'd be like to hold if the self timer was there, and I had to get this strap just to make it easier to hold and use on a daily basis. I might get a neck strap for it as well, but it was just a weird hold in the hand at first, but I've gotten used to it at this point, and it's just something I feel like you should know if you're thinking of getting into it and you have big hands like me. The next thing is the film rewind. It's annoying. It's annoying. There's no other way to put it. It's an annoying system for rewinding film. It takes much longer than it should. I found that it takes me about 60 twists on this particular version that I have. And it just takes the fun out of using the camera sometimes, or the couple of times, that 6 times that I've had to take out film. And it's just, I don't like it. I know there's a thing that you can buy to put on top of it, and I just don't know why Leica decided to go with this film rewind system. I'm glad they changed it in later versions of this model, but it's just something that's annoying, something I feel like you should know. And also the film reload system. At first it was annoying to have to take the film out, But it's just literally like loading a medium format camera. So if you're used to loading a medium format camera, this should be easy for you. It just takes a little bit of getting used to, but after putting a couple of rolls to this camera, I've gotten really used to it. I can change it really quick. I can change it if it's cold outside. I can change it if I'm outside anywhere. It doesn't really take me that long to reload right now. When it comes to shooting film, the most important things are the lens and the film that you're using. Those two things are more important than the actual camera that you're using, and they affect the image more than the actual camera. But the lens, this camera, it's a really good camera. It allows for easy taking of pictures. I like to shoot street style photography, and the ease of use is something that's really, really important to me, which is why I've used a lot of point and shoots recently. But having this camera, understanding how to use this camera, getting this camera and taking it with me everywhere that I'm going has allowed me to really, really fall in love with using this camera. And I love the lens that I have on this Voigtlander 35mm camera lens. It's really, really good. Allows me to understand. There's no light meter in this camera, in case I didn't mention that before. There's no light meter in this, but use your Sunny 16 rule. Get to know light in your eyes. I know light in my eyes for having used a lot of medium format cameras in the past, so I can see the light. I know how to set my ISO. I know how to set my shutter speed and set the f-stop to get properly exposed photos. But if you're not used to that, that's also something you should know. There's no light meter in this. But yeah, it takes really, really great images, takes sharp images. I get great results when I'm using this. This camera is literally becoming my right hand as I use this more and more often. So I'm learning to really know how to zone focus. So zone focusing is also becoming something that I'm getting used to. So yeah, this is a couple of first impressions that I have with this camera. If you've used this camera in the past, if you know about this camera, let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below. If you have any recommendations for my issues with the rewind knob and how to do a faster rewind apart from that other attachment that you can buy, let me know in the comment section down below. That brings me to the end of this video. If this video has brought you any value, please make sure you do the things, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel, as this goes a long way to making sure I produce more content like this. Until next time, make sure you stay safe, make sure you shoot film, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. I got me a Leica. I'm happy. I don't know if I'm gonna keep it though. The rewind thing is actually really annoying. But we'll see. We'll see.